Hey guys, did you get like symptoms after watching this show and starting this season? I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a little something. Like I'm coming down with sequelitis. And I feel like I'm gonna have it for the next two movies too. Feeling pretty goofy.
Wait a second.
I got some goofy balls and sequelitis.
So wait, I don't know. Senioritis is when you're like a senior and you don't want to go to school anymore.
Yeah.
So are you saying you don't want to watch sequels anymore?
Are you sick of sequels already?
Are you sick of sequels?
Oh, no. I want more. It makes me, sequelitis is like the reverse. It like makes me hungry for sequels.
You just love disease.
Just so my appetite for sequels is now like a medical condition. That's how severe it is.
Well, and itis is actually an inflammatory disease, so.
We are inflamed with.
And it is Goofball sequels.
Yeah.
So I've got inflamed goofy balls.
You should probably go somewhere.
You know what, Danny? A few minutes ago when you said that you had goofy balls, I didn't even put it together that you were talking about Goofball
That's why I had
sequels.
to repeat it, because I was like, I need to really bridge this narrative together.
You weren't talking about like goofy, like, you weren't talking about his balls?
I didn't know what he meant.
Goofy's balls.
Oh my God. I have Goofy's balls in my drawer.
Why the drawer? Why is it such a specific location? Oh, Casey looks like she's gonna stab us.
You're listening to How I Met Your Monster, a podcast that explores the introductions to your favorite movie monsters. My name's Zach.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Casey.
And together we dive into the world of horror to find out how filmmakers have introduced us to our favorite monsters time and time again. This is How I Met Your Monster.
You opened it. We came.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Explorers in the further regions of experience. Demons to some, angels to others.
Call you Meatloaf Surprise, Sydney.
Welcome to a brand new episode of How I Met Your Monster. We're jumping right into Goofball sequels. Basket Case 3. This movie was fucking nuts.
Pretty goofy.
Knuckin' Futz.
It was
amazing.
It was something else.
All right, where are we starting, guys?
Damn, Casey is ready for bed.
I mean,
ready.
I'm wearing my onesie right now.
We're gonna treat Casey as our guest tonight. So Casey has
I'm an hour ahead of you, Zach, and I'm 3 hours ahead of you,
yeah,
Danny,
it's
so.
12 in the afternoon for me right now. Just kidding.
It's noon.
I literally just woke up. I'm still a little groggy. It's 8 in the morning.
Shut
up. Where does one start? I think we need.
I don't know. Zach always does this.
Zach, we need you so bad in this particular episode to really rein things in. I'm because we also watched. The theme is Goofball sequels, so we obviously jumped ahead in this franchise, but we all ended up watching the previous entries. So I am like, my brain is so gross right now. Not only because of like the imagery that it like absorbed over the past 2 days, but just because it doesn't know which was which, and like its wires have been crossed and characters are blurring together.
Oh, how could they?
Yeah, how is
They're
that
all
possible?
so distinct.
So we need you, Master Zach.
My plan was not to watch all three.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well,
I thought
mine
we
wasn't
could
either.
Yeah.
easily jump into part 3 and just explore what was ahead of us.
Yeah.
But that turned out to not be the case. And so I had already seen part 1, so I didn't watch that, but I watched part 2, which, man, I really liked part 2.
You did?
Yeah.
I did too.
Don't go to my letterboxd.
So when I turned on Basket Case 3, as you can imagine, without having a clue what was going on, you know, it was like the girl, he accidentally pushed the girl through. Well, first of all,
Oh yeah,
Belial and what's her name were humping hard.
Eve.
Eve,
There was
yes.
some
Belial
Oh
and
my God.
Eve,
Yeah.
which is funny because Belial means Satan and her name is Eve.
Oh, that's funny.
And
Of all
so
the
they're
exposition
humping
they give us in this movie, that's the one detail that I thought would be really interesting. But
they're humping real hard. Dwayne accidentally pushes the girl through the window, right?
Uh-huh.
And then all of the creatures of the house are ordered to go inside and find Dwayne. So I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, what? And then he takes the the knitting needles and the yarn, and he starts screaming and trying to sew Belial back onto his side.
Uh-huh.
And I turned it off and I'm like, I have to watch part 2. And I was like, that may have been a dream sequence that I just didn't wait long enough to get out of. Turns out it was not. No. So
It was the ending.
Yeah.
Literally, the first 7 minutes of this movie are the last 7 minutes of part 2.
Last 7 minutes of part 2. Well, yeah, I'm wondering if they just, they probably hadn't decided what they were doing for part 3 or something.
And they straight up abandoned the whole concept that they set up at the end of part 2, where Dwayne stitches him back and reconnects himself to set up the idea that part 3 is going to be them together. And we open up showing that just to let the audience know, oh no, we decided against that. So someone behind the scenes is like, I don't like this idea. I'm giving you all my money. I don't like this. So can we change it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, I loved all 3 of them. Very Trauma. Like when you think of Trauma, that's kind of, and I didn't know that it was Trauma.
Surprisingly, parts 2 and 3, I was very surprised by the production value of them being Trauma movies.
Yeah, I don't know typically what Trauma movies, I mean, they were still low budget, but I think they were each like $3 million budget wise, as opposed to the first one was like 35 grand. So,
okay.
I'm not sure what like Nuke 'Em High or Poultrygeist or Toxic Avenger. I don't know what the things were for those, but
I saw some interviews with the director, Frank Henenlotter, and he said that part 3 is like the movie out of his whole filmography that he is most disappointed by is part 3, Basket Case. And the second one came out like 8 years after Basket Case 1. And then it was only 1 year until Basket Case 3 came out. And he said they went into it without really even having a story. The studio just wanted another, not Trauma, but the, whatever the other studio was, wanted just another installment. And so he's like, we didn't really know what to do. And they just like reused all of the costumes of those monsters from part 2. And they're like, well, we have these, let's just use these. And so it was very rushed and he just wasn't happy with it.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen.
But they had time to build a mech.
Yeah. And what a mech it was.
What a mech it was.
They're like, we don't have a story, but we have this prop that we want to build around.
Basically.
Mm-hmm. But okay. We'll get to the mech. We'll get to Belial in his
Gundam.
In his Gundam.
Gundam, yeah.
His Zord.
But first, we have to turn it over. We need to turn this show over to Casey because this week she is taking over our recent horror watches because me and Danny can't remember if we saw anything, and Casey watched 8 movies. So
Danny knows what he watched.
Right,
Danny?
Thankfully, I always can turn to my letterbox to remind me, but I hadn't written it down. But I do have them.
Okay.
But I'm sure they're not going to be anywhere. They're not going to be as impressive.
I am the odd man out. I will stay out of this.
Zach, stay out of this.
And so, Casey, let's hear about the 8 movies that you watched. Take it away, Casey.
Okay. So those are including the 3 Basket Case movies. So you have Basket Case 1, 2, and 3, which, we'll talk about. I loved all 3 of them. Absolutely. I also watched Cocaine Bear.
Okay.
Oh, yay.
which
Wait, you did.
I did, and it was
Confronted a fear.
yeah, but it was like funny, so it wasn't like
Hmm.
you know, like they really leaned into the funny part, which I wasn't sure going into it what it was like, you know. It's really brutal, though.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
In a number of ways, not just the bear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the bear, I definitely was
Also the cocaine.
cocaine. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was definitely tense during the bear parts. So, you know, like it wasn't necessarily scary, but I was definitely like,
How would you compare it to the attack scene in The Revenant?
I had to turn away when I watched The Revenant. It's like one of two times in a movie, watching a movie that I've ever had to not look. So,
How would you compare it to the bear scene in Prey versus the Predator?
I actually thought about that, but there was a lot more of the bear in Cocaine Bear. And although it was well done, it was very obviously CG, which also kind of took me out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
How would you compare it to the bears in Disney's The Country Bears?
I have never seen it. I was waiting for you to make a gay joke about a bear. Like, how would you compare it to the bear scene in the bird cage or something
How
like
would you
that?
compare it to my grinder hookup last night?
Oh, Danny, dirty boy. So I watched that. I watched an old movie that you guys may have heard of called Cape Fear
You watched Cape Fear.
that I had never seen before.
Oh,
The
my.
De Niro version?
Yes.
What did you think?
Yeah.
Counselor.
So that was good.
What?
Uh
That was good?
It was
That's
good.
all?
It wasn't exactly what I think probably back in the day it was a lot like creepier, you know? But
I don't think, I don't know. I disagree. I think it's still creepy. I don't know how time is relevant in that.
I don't know, because I'm desensitized to a lot of stuff,
Oh,
you know?
But how did you feel about, because I think the two scenes that always stand out for me as far as like being really creepy and putting it over the edge is the scene when he's like being really gross with
Yeah, Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis's character. And then the scene when he bites that woman's cheek off.
Oh yeah, that's the
That's-
woman from Stir of Echoes.
The movie, right? Yes.
Yeah.
oh
That's
yeah.
Cape Fear, right?
You had talked about that woman.
We were just talking about her. Now I can't think of her name.
Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah, I mean I definitely that part took me by surprise with that woman because I didn't realize that he was going to go after other people
Yeah.
too. And then yes, the part with Juliette Lewis was gross, and then he was like leaving her. He left her that book, and she was all into it for a minute, which was gross. Yeah, but
Yeah, that movie is.
I liked the
I haven't seen that since college, but oof.
yeah, I liked the end a lot on the boat.
Like the whole climax.
That was really good with the boat and stuff.
Mhm.
So there was that. I watched
So we're at 3,
the
4, 5. Oh,
yeah, I watched the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre because when I was younger, it was like one of my favorite remakes.
Is that the first remake?
Jessica Biel, yeah,
Yeah,
Jessica
Jessica
Biel, like,
Biel.
okay. Yeah.
and Mike, what's his name? I used to have
Vogel.
yes, I used to have a huge crush on him, and it's pretty good. It's still good. There's some stuff. It was interesting to me, especially now that I like the original one so much because I think probably the last time I watched the remake was when I was in high school, and I had seen the original one, but I didn't love it as much as I do now. So it's a lot different that like most of the time when you watch an older horror movie, you're like, wow, a remake of this would be really great because they would have a budget and blah, blah, blah. But I think with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's very like the original is so scary because it's so raw because they didn't have
Yeah.
Mhm.
that money to do a lot of extra stuff with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that was interesting. I still like it. It's like, you know, super bloody and brutal and stuff. So
It's so different too from the original one that you could kind of watch it as a sequel, like its
Yeah.
own thing.
yeah, true. Yeah, because yeah, I mean, not same characters or anything. So other
Yeah.
than Leatherface. All right. Then I watched this movie that is a Shudder exclusive called Speak No Evil.
Oh my God.
it
Fuck that movie.
You watched it?
Why?
Yeah, I did.
You didn't like it?
Oh
What's wrong
my
with it?
God. It was very well made. It was
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was enjoyable. It was tense until you
like the
get to
ending.
like the last 30 minutes or so. Dude, I was
Why didn't you like the end?
It's so fucking depressing.
Oh, well, yeah, that's why I like it.
It is like, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, are you
Yeah.
fucking kidding me?
Yeah. I loved it.
Okay, so I'm going to avoid that.
Yeah, Danny, avoid it.
Yeah, so I liked that movie. I liked I liked the end of it a lot.
Okay.
And
Speak no evil.
last movie I watched, which I didn't actually put these in order, but I watched a movie called Last Shift.
Is that... Oh, no, I'm thinking of something else.
I have seen that on the streaming services for like years. And the image that they show looks silly to me. So I never watched it, but people say it's so good. What did you
It's pretty good.
Oh, so I think I am thinking. Is this the one that's being remade?
Yes, it's called Malum. It comes out on Friday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I didn't know that it was being remade until after I watched it. Then I was looking through stuff and I was like, oh, he the same director just kind of reimagined his story. He had a better budget, kind of was able to go do a little more with it. So yeah, it's going to be in select theaters on Friday. But yeah, no, it was good. You know, like you said, the thumbnail is kind of corny, but there was some stuff that was a little bit corny. But that's kind of, to me, that's almost always going to happen in a paranormal, supernatural kind of movie.
Yeah.
So, as far as that goes, like other than, you know, the one or two little corny parts, it was pretty good. They did some cool stuff that I've never seen before in a supernatural movie. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was really good. And Matt actually bought Resident Evil 4 and we watched Last Shift and he couldn't play it because he was too scared.
Oh, fun.
So
Nice.
that's it. That's all I've got. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
Love it.
Well, no, I think
tried
that
to-
was a big
I
rundown.
tried to be brief.
Yeah.
That was very brief.
Okay.
But guys, I got these little I got stickers.
You got stickers?
I got some stickers and I wanted to make them small enough to put in my wallet.
Well, describe it to us.
It is our logo. It says How I Met Your Monster, a horror podcast. And it is just very tiny. I opened
is
it
it
and I
cute?
was like, oh, those are smaller than I thought they'd be, but they're cute.
It's cute.
Anyways. Yeah. So if anybody
Yeah,
out
that's a
there runs into me out in the wild, say, hey, Zach, can I get one of those little stickers that are in your wallet? And I'll say,
And you're not allowed to say, hey, this is too small. Because
Because that's not nice.
it's not nice.
Yeah.
It's not the size of the sticker.
I'm
It's
tired of hearing
way-
that from people.
Okay, Danny, what have you watched?
I watched a few good movies. Obviously, I watched Basket Case 1 and 2 to prepare for Basket
like,
Case 3.
Did you watch 3, Danny?
We're doing 1 and 2, right? That's what you meant by sequels, like
You're
the
funny.
first two. I rewatched Scream 5 with, actually, this kind of ties into our Screamathon because anyone
Danny,
who
let
is
it go.
joining us.
That was like
Yeah.
4 weeks ago.
It's over.
It's still happening in my heart. Anyone who joined Screamathon would know that Holly, in a very funny moment, Holly had joined us for the previous 4 Scream movies during Screamathon. She did not join us for part 5 because she had not seen part 5. And we basically just talked throughout all of the movies. So Holly decides to join the chat during the finale, literally seconds before the killer reveals themselves. And everyone in the chat is like, whether it was us yelling or people in the actual like chat were just screaming like, Holly, get out of here. Like, get out, like screaming. And she was dying and she left. So anyways, long story short, she and I finally got a chance to watch it. And she seemed to enjoy it. She did guess the killers.
Oh, good.
Which I thought was interesting.
Oh, she guessed them right?
Yeah. And I also watched,
Scream
I did
6.
like a werewolf. Oh, no. I've only seen it twice. Not for any reason. Just, I did sort of a werewolf double feature, but I spread them apart by like a week. I watched Silver Bullet, the Stephen King adaptation. I was just hungry for it.
Hungry.
Because we were talking about it recently and I had to watch it. So love that movie. Gary Busey is so funny in that movie.
He is. Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe how much I love it. Like genuinely, like actually, like I'm like hungry for it. Like I just want to keep seeing him. Like the way he delivers lines is so entertaining. It's so hard to describe.
Yeah. And he's kind of like, I mean, he's not Corey Haim's dad, right?
Uncle.
He's his uncle. Okay. Yeah. And he has this like, oh man, I thought you're right. It's indescribable because I thought I had it. And now as I'm saying it, like I can't get the words out.
I've never seen it.
Well, the thing is he's supposed to have a drinking problem. So when you meet him, I think you're supposed to think that he's drunk, or maybe he is drunk. And I think he's playing drunk.
Isn't Gary Busey just always drunk?
Well, he has such a, that's the thing is Gary Busey, like the person has such a distinctly like quirky personality.
Yeah.
He's kind of famous for that. But there are movie roles he has where he can kind of rein it in. And he does have scenes in this where it is kind of you can tell he felt like the get for this movie where like he was the star when they were filming. Because he has this energy, not cocky, but commanding where he's like, I know I'm here because you needed, like, I guess he was an A-lister at the time. Maybe still is. I mean, he just has that kind of presence.
He's kind of a pet.
No.
He's a pet judge right now. He can't be drinking when he's judging pets.
That's right. Gary Busey, pet judge.
So confirmed. He's an A-lister still. Yeah, he does these. I can't tell if he's doing these, like he knows he's being funny and that it's actually really clever acting, or if it's just coming out of
like
him
he's clueless
spontaneously.
and he's just
yeah. So I don't know, and I'm like, this is a great, like actually a great performance, and it is I would argue one of the most fun performances I've ever seen in a movie. I could watch it. The fact that he's not in it enough is what bothers me about this movie.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like I'm being like hyperbolic. I genuinely mean that. Like, I really want that movie. The other werewolf movie that I saw was The Howling, which I realized I had never seen. I'd only seen like the first 10 minutes.
I think that I started it not too long ago and fell asleep.
It's good. It's really, really fun.
Do they go to like an outdoor like event at some point with a bonfire and stuff? Okay, that's the last part that I remember.
That's what threw me. I always thought it was like the city werewolf movie. Yeah. But most of it takes place at this kind of like getaway, not resort, but
I think I fell asleep when they got there.
It's for therapy or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's like a retreat.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know.
Wellness retreat.
Yes. But yeah, really fun and great effects. Like truly fantastic werewolf transformation effects.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't get talked about enough.
That was
American Werewolf kind of overshadowed it.
Totally.
What's his name?
Joe Dante?
What's his name?
The director?
No.
Joe. Oh, I was saying that's Joe Dante, right?
No, the guy that did the effects. For The Thing.
Rob Bottin.
Oh,
Rob Bottin. Yeah.
That's the same guy?
Yeah, I think that he wasn't like the big effects guy on The Howling, but that's how he met people, if I remember correctly, to get on the thing with John Carpenter.
And speaking of Goofball sequels, again, like this is the first time I've seen The Howling, but I'm pretty sure The Howling has like a shit ton of sequels.
Yeah.
And I've heard they all just get weirder and weirder. And this movie's pretty weird.
It's weird.
Not like where like American Werewolf in London is like a comedy. This one is so bizarre. It is not like your typical werewolf movie.
Yeah.
And I won't say anymore. Like, just go see it. Highly recommend it. Really fun.
Yeah.
Well, I have this very distinct memory of when I was a kid. We had this like section in our house that like used to be a porch when I was like younger, but then my parents like put like a roof over it and walls and shit. So like there was like a little room, but like the walls inside the room, which was an actual just room in the house, but the walls inside had siding on them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had like a little TV out there with like, it had like 3 channels, but there was a VCR hooked up. And I remember I must have been like 10 or 11. And I remember renting one of the Howling sequels where they're like in a circus or like a freak show.
Oh, that sounds
And
fun.
I was eating like animal crackers that had like the pink frosting with sprinkles on them.
Oh yeah.
I just have this memory of watching that particular
That's
Howling
great.
sequel, eating these cookies basically, and just living my best life.
That's fantastic. Oh,
So weird.
Yep.
Well, we'll have to bring back the Goofball sequel theme at some point, and then maybe you can do that one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But then there's like a interesting like animated section of the Howling where like, isn't it like some people are getting it on and then like they turn into werewolves or something and then it like turns animated?
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
There's this moment. That's so funny you said that. Oh, what was that? They just were like, all right, picture this. If you haven't seen it, 2 werewolves are having sex. And then for some reason,
Picture it. This.
and then for some reason, I thought it was like they were just trying to do some like low budget CGI.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like weird animation of like silhouettes.
Yeah.
Was it? Was it like
Yeah, I
stop
had
motion?
No idea.
No,
No,
it was like
definitely
Disney
computer.
movie animation. Like
Yeah.
like full on drawn.
Now
like,
that you say that, I don't know if that
animation.
was like a choice or if that was just bad CG. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
I don't know.
I didn't even. It literally, I remember watching, me like, that's weirdly weird looking.
Uh-huh.
Weirdly
then-
weird looking.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So. Oh, and you know what I did? I was gonna save this for next week because I didn't finish it, but I decided I'm gonna leave a cliffhanger. I watched the first 3/4 of the movie Alligator.
Okay.
Really fun. Not as fun as I think it could be, but then again, I haven't seen the finale, which is probably where like
Okay.
all the alligator stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Okay.
Oh, and I think when you said you thought The Howling was like the city werewolf movie, I think that's Wolfen, which I've never seen. But I remember
Adding that to my letterboxed watch list as we
I
speak.
remember Michael Keaton in the movie The Dream Team. He was like, they were like downtown going to a baseball game and they get like lost. They're anyways, it's a whole thing. But he's telling his friends about the movie Wolfen. And he's like, yeah, they filmed it down here. Like it really happened. Like
Oh, that's
these
funny.
wolves came and like, rah, rah, like ate people's throats out, ripped people's throats out. And that's a funny movie, The Dream Team. That's good. Anyways.
Speaking of it really happened really quickly, and then we can move on. Did both of you grow up with the fear or at least assumption that there really were alligators in the sewers?
No,
No.
I
that was a Connecticut
assumed
thing.
that was real. I just thought that was real. I was I'm not like, I wouldn't like, avoid
I was
sewers,
terrified to
but-
go down in the sewer when I was 10.
Listen, I avoided it whenever I could. I couldn't really, but I
thought-
tried.
I thought that Master Splinter was in the sewers.
See, that feels, but then that sort of posits that there's like an ooze down there that can turn you into, that can mutate you.
Yeah,
So like also scary.
but also cool.
True.
I mean, if it turns turtles into beings that are
Ninjas.
my size and ninjas, yes, and how what would it turn me into?
Yeah. What would it do to us?
Whoa.
What is the equivalent of ooze on a? I mean, they must have explored that at some point. in
I'm
the
sure
show.
that it's probably one of the villains or something in the movie. I just don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Shredder gets oozed.
I love
and he,
those movies.
Super
I haven't watched them
Shredder.
in so long. Should probably watch those.
yeah,
Well,
see.
what happens in doesn't he get in part 2?
Yeah, that's
Doesn't
the
he
secret
take
of the
Secret of the
Ooze.
Ooze?
Yeah, because he like uses the ooze to make
Oh,
those-
see, with the movie Secret of the Ooze should establish the further effects beyond rats and turtles of what
But
the ooze
at the
can
end
do
of that, doesn't he become like Super Shredder?
I don't remember.
So you just become enhanced by
I think
ooze if
so.
you're
Who's your
human?
favorite Ninja Turtle?
Unless I'm going crazy.
Donatello. Why? Because he's a smart one. He's a sensible one.
Smart one. I love the purple. And when I was a kid, I thought Donnie.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
And my brother and his friend Russ, they would kind of give them, like, which turtle are you? So my brother Mike was always Michelangelo. I think Russ was Leonardo. No one wanted to be Raphael. And no one wanted to be the purple one. And I was like, I actively want to be the purple one.
I always Donatello. Just like the smartest one, like Sailor Moon. I like Sailor Mercury because she's smart, and Thundercats I like Panthro because he's the smart one.
Yes.
So, it's just my type.
Was Donatello also your choice?
Yes.
Yes. Zach, what about you? If it's not Donatello, it's probably not a good choice, but don't let that pressure you.
I think it was Leonardo, I think.
That's a good choice.
Oh,
well, I mean, he's like
I like Leonardo.
I would say if there was like a main one, he would be it.
Oh, really? See, I always thought like Raphael was.
Yeah. I mean,
isn't he the leader?
They're all essential.
I think Leonardo's the leader.
Oh, see, I always thought as Raphael was like, maybe he just saw himself as the leader.
Leonardo is the leader. When you Google TMNT leader, it says Leonardo.
That's so interesting. And Michelangelo was just the funny one.
Leo eats, sleeps, and breathes ninjutsu, which is probably why he was chosen by Master Splinter to be the leader of the Ninja Turtles.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's just like, why am I thinking Raphael then?
I don't know. I think we should talk about Basket Case now.
Well, just hold on.
You've gotten so far off.
I mean, also a New York-based movie in the first one, so there's something there. There's a break.
At the end of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, Shredder gets covered in the ooze and becomes Super Shredder.
Okay, so I would be Super Casey.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Basically.
Very cool.
And I would be Super Donatello.
No. You're not Donatello, Danny. You're Danny. I'm sorry.
I'm a turtle.
I'm a turtle.
Donatello.
Speaking of, I was going to make a joke. Never mind. We're moving beyond.
We're going. Going
Okay,
forward.
you guys ready to meet our monster?
Let's fucking do it.
Let's open that basket.
Let's open that basket.
Let's meet Belial.
Let's do it.
Belial is so interesting.
Etc.
He's cool.
So for those of you out there who do not know,
yeah, set us up, Zach, please.
Belial is a growth that
He's a vestigial twin.
He's a vestigial twin. He was born outside of Dwayne Bradley, our, I guess, main character, you could say.
Literally attached at the hip.
Literally attached at the hip. And he was removed as a teenager, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A young boy.
As a young Dwayne. The doctors, I guess his parents.
Is that the term for a young man, as a young Dwayne?
Young Dwayne.
As a young Dwayne.
It's between teenager and preteen. A young Dwayne.
Yeah.
A
Two
young
veterinarians, actually.
Oh, two veterinarians.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Was it the parents, though, that were
twist.
like, you need to remove this?
Yes, the dad wanted him to remove it, and then his mom died giving birth to them.
Search.
But
Right.
the sister, the aunt, lived there, and she was on vacation. And the dad was like, "Come on, do it now."
Yeah. And so they remove Belial, and this is all in the first Basket Case movie. They remove Belial and
Put him in a garbage bag.
They put him in a garbage bag.
Put him out for
Somehow
the trash.
he finds his way into a basket, right?
No.
Dwayne puts him in there. Dwayne puts him in a basket.
Dwayne puts him in the basket because they speak telepathically.
Yes,
So
that is one
Belial
of
was like,
Belial's.
Dwayne, I'm out here in the garbage.
It's funny, they speak telepathically, but Dwayne has to speak out loud.
Yeah,
so the audience knows he's talking to someone.
And then they go to try to get revenge on these doctors, right? These veterinarians. And
For
so they
splitting
do.
them apart.
There's some pretty pretty cool kills. Doesn't she get like a bunch of syringes in her face?
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
actually I find Belial's style of killing very strange. He just kind of goes like this in front of people and then they die.
Well,
Listeners, since you couldn't really see, Casey manically flailed her arms around.
yes. And if you do not
But
know,
it
Belial
described it pretty
is literally a head with arms and some extra
Yeah.
fatty tissue. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. And in the first one, he moves through stop motion.
yes.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
that was
I
pretty
love that.
cool.
Me too.
Yeah.
So then at the end of Basket Case 1, they fall out of a window off the balcony or something, and they
die.
They die at the end of the first
For
one.
all intents and
But
purposes, they die.
8 years later, they wanted to make a second one. And
Right.
so they're not dead. They're taken to the hospital. And Dwayne is, again, telepathically linked to Belial saying, save me. So
Come get me.
they escape the hospital. And when they do, Dr. Ruth, Granny Ruth,
Granny Ruth, yep.
and her granddaughter, Susan,
Yeah.
find them outside the hospital and they say, hey, come with us. We know all about you. We'll
We
take
got a
care of
house
you.
full of
We got to
freaks.
hide you.
Yep.
So, yeah, she's got a house full of people that are unique individuals
Yes.
and very unique individuals.
Oh my God, they're
They
so cool.
are hiding in the attic, but they also just kind of like do their thing around the house too. And she gives Belial and Dwayne a home to stay in. And Dwayne, all of a sudden, they don't say how much time passes, but Dwayne is healed, dressed nicely, has a haircut, and is in love with the granddaughter, Susan.
Yeah.
And I don't know when all that happened, but it happened. And there's a reporter and trying to get a story on these two, what were they called? The Times Square freaks or something like that.
Yeah.
And she ultimately gets her comeuppance with.
Oh man.
She's trying to expose
I wish
them.
though that
Yeah.
they would have used her in the third one just as one of the people that live with them now because they destroyed her face.
Oh yeah, and
Because
they
like she looked so cool.
yeah, they twisted her
But
face.
she
all
didn't
up.
die, right? She still survived that.
I mean, I think.
I think so. I mean, she survived.
Everyone,
I
everyone
mean, they
survives
weren't clear about it, but
things
I,
in these movies.
yeah, I thought that it would have been cool because I liked her face.
So then Dwayne comes on to Susan and says, "Hey, Susan, I'm finally free of Belial.
Right.
I can have my own life, but I want you to come with me desperately for some reason." So they start like going at it. And she says, hold on. There's something about me that you don't know. Oh my God. I forgot about Eve. So Belial,
Belial,
this head with arms, is lucky enough to have another head with arms in the attic of Dr. Ruth's house. And they fall in love and they start banging.
They do somehow.
I don't
Somehow.
know. But Eve is loving it. Let me tell you, Belial is good in the sack.
She's having a great
like
time.
he is riding.
She's
Yeah.
she's
And apparently she
got
has
her
like a
weird
foot.
little legs.
She's got
you know.
Yeah, what is he using? I don't know if I want to open that door, but like,
Well, obviously he has some sort of dick.
I guess.
but he has like,
yeah, I mean,
does it like come out? Because it seems like he has a flat surface
I mean,
at the bottom.
yeah.
he
Yeah,
has
Maybe
to
he's
have
only
something.
seen sex and he thinks he's doing it right.
Well, I mean, clearly
And it's
he
just
does
like-
it right, which we
Yeah,
will
he gets
see in
pregnant.
part
She was
3
pregnant.
Oh, that's
when Eve
true.
becomes
Spoilers.
pregnant. But so at the same time that Belial and Eve are going at it, Dwayne is trying to go at it with Susan, who says, hey, hold on. There's something about me you don't know. And I had guessed that Eve was something
Yeah.
that was removed from Susan. And they were going
Well,
to be
I
like,
thought so too. So it looks like they use the woman who plays Susan. It looks like it's her face in Eve because
yes,
instead of just-
exactly.
instead of just having the full like animatronic thing like they do for Belial, like they actually have a person puppeting this thing. Like they actually have somebody's face in it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking now.
Could it be that in that maybe that's why when she was impregnated, there was something internal, like she was more susceptible to
maybe
some kind of mutation because she already kind of like was connected to Eve? Like there are remnants of that?
I don't know. I think they would have told us.
Yeah.
But Susan...
Would they have, though? I guess someone would have. There's a lot of people really express themselves in these movies.
But it turns out that Susan has been pregnant for 6 years.
6 years.
And she doesn't look pregnant. She doesn't have her baby bump, but she's been pregnant for 6 years. And the thing just doesn't want to come out, apparently.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, it does come out. And it looks like I don't know, it kind of looks like a penis. Like a big old...
Yeah, like a tremor penis.
Yeah.
Oh my
gosh. It looks like someone clearly has their hand up a puppet and is working their mouth like you would a puppet.
Like
which we find out, I have to say, I'm very excited. We find out in the third movie that the baby's, quote, baby's name is Bernard.
Yeah.
Which is also my middle name.
That's right.
I thought you were going to say, which is a nickname for my penis.
I mean, isn't every
connecting.
male's penis named after their middle name?
Listen, Benjamin. My penis wears spectacles and reads a nice leather-bound book every night by the fireplace.
Danny, I mean, that's your middle name and you don't even do that.
It's so true.
But okay, so Casey, you did say that it looked like they used Susan's face for Eve, which I completely agree with.
But they didn't.
Which makes sense.
Oh, they didn't? It's somebody else?
No, I just looked it up. The only thing that woman is in, who plays Eve, is Baskey.
Weird. You would think with the budget they would reuse actors when they could.
Nobody wanted her after that.
Well, one thing that I thought was interesting is only one time in Basket Case 2 do they use a real face for Belial.
Yeah.
When he does like that.
They could have done so much.
Yeah.
Like
he starts like laughing and I thought he was going to talk, but he doesn't. But I feel like there was lots of opportunities later in the movie to still use somebody's face in there.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would even be cheaper than using the animatronic.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends because the animatronic that they had in the second one, like the eyes didn't actually move or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They stayed in one spot, like they were made in the piece. You know what I mean? He had a big glow up. Like in the third movie, the eyes actually look really good. Like they actually look like
I was
real
going to
eyes.
say glow up, not just including his literally glowing eyes.
Yeah. He looks much better. I mean, it's just all hilarious to me.
So that's Belial.
Yeah.
So that's our monster. We have many monsters in part 2 and 3 specifically, but Belial is kind of our like main man when it comes to our main monsters.
Man.
Would you argue that? See, I was thinking because Belial is sort of the through line, him and Dwayne, but like as the monster, he's the through line. That the monster reveal. Yeah, I guess he is like a monster too in his own right.
Yeah, he's letting him.
But I was going to say like. The new monster, even though there are a lot, was maybe a little Hal because they kind of save him. He has such a setup and then he plays like such a pivotal role in the story that I kind of viewed him as like this movie's monster.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, I don't think the monsters are the monsters.
No.
In this movie.
Oh, that's fair.
No. Like the third one, no.
Even in part 2.
Yeah.
They're just like.
Because the reporter.
Yeah, right. In part 2, they're just like, the world doesn't want you. Like, people won't accept you. So, like, we just have to hide. And, okay, so Dr. Ruth is played by Annie Ross, who I love, like, the work that she puts into this role in these 2 movies.
Like, sells it.
And I was almost thinking, like, in the second one, when she's giving her speech in the attic, it's like, man, like, you're the good guys. I feel so bad for you guys. So, yeah, I would say that they're not even monsters at all.
That's fair. And to give, this seems like a criticism. I'm not
Don't
trying to
you dare.
make it a criticism.
Don't you.
But for anyone who hasn't seen
dare.
these movies and is wondering, needs a visual cue without Googling it, there are a lot of similarities to the creature work and effects and costumes in Disney's Halloween Town series.
Is that true?
I thought that was literally, could not get that movie out of my head.
But you're saying
I was
that's a
like-
critique?
I love Halloween Town.
But I mean, this came first. So
But I saw Halloween Town first, so technically in my timeline it didn't. No. No, but it has that kind of vibe where it's like really over the top effects. I mean, regardless of taste or not, just like ridiculous details.
yeah.
You know, this movie requires such a suspension of disbelief in
Yes.
so many ways of like, what is the root? Like, I can explain in a way what Belial is. What did you call him? A vestigial growth?
A vestigial twin.
Okay, I could see that like as this like twin that maybe isn't fully formed that is growing off of another person. I can buy that. The other, what do they call them, Zach? You had a phrase for them.
I call them
Unique
unique individuals. Yeah.
They are more along the lines of something that is more alien than human, I would say. You know, it's not like they have a quote unquote disfigurement or abnormality. It's these details that are really hard to sort of
Right.
I can't even explain what I'm trying to explain because they're just, I don't know how to describe them. They are human, but they're not really human.
There was absolutely no limits with what they were told to create. You know?
Yeah. And that shows.
So.
And they act like, that's why I kept thinking of Halloween Town, because they act like monsters.
Well.
Like they act like not even like they are not social. They just behave in inhuman ways. And like, I mean, even Eve and Belial have like a litter of babies of like 10 or however many that she has.
12.
Which I guess a human can do, but this felt different.
Yeah. I mean, even when the unique individuals are like running through the house, that was one of the things when I started the third one without watching the second one. The way that they were running through the house, like to look for Dwayne, I was like, what? I was like, this can't be real. I'm like, he has to be dreaming. Like they're like kind of scampering and like, you know, some of them are like taking really tiny little steps and I don't know. It's very weird.
I thought it would be so interesting to see like Frank Henenlotter like directing those actors in those during that scene.
Well, they were just all supposed to be so bizarre, but like one of them, I wanted to just be like, dude, you just have like more noses than other people. Like there's really like, why are you acting so strange?
Did you see the noses at the funeral?
Yeah, like dripping.
Ew,
they were all
snotty.
Dripping. They were all snotty.
Disgusting.
My favorite.
I feel like you would think with that many noses, you would know how to like control. Like, oh, I have a whole regiment for like keeping these noses.
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
Maybe they're
controlled.
really only connected to one part. Maybe the other ones just kind of do their own thing, you know?
Yeah. Maybe they don't even all smell. Maybe they all have like, maybe one is like for eating, one is for smell. Maybe they all smell different types of things. Like one is sensitive to sweet smells. One is sensitive to, I don't know, fucking not sweet.
Oh man, can you imagine trying to plug your nose when you want to go swimming?
Oh man.
See, but if you had little Hal, you could be like, Hal, use your arms.
All your
and plug
arms.
my noses.
Yeah.
Come with me. We got to go swimming. I want to do a cannonball.
Who was your favorite of those?
Can I choose Belial?
Sure.
I do have a list of everybody that she said on the bus.
Yes.
She didn't say all their names, but I do have a list of some of their names. So,
well, Sydney is my favorite.
So we are
Sydney
into basket case 3 at this point. Basket case 3. Dwayne has stitched Belial back onto him at the end of part 2. Susan fell out a window, killed Susan and Bernard, the baby inside of her. And now we are in part 3. Belial has been removed once again from Dwayne, who is now in a straitjacket in the basement of Granny Ruth's house. And Eve is pregnant and they're taking care of her. But they said, hey, we're not going to do this here. We're going to go on a fucking road trip to Georgia.
We need a doctor who's suited for this.
We need a doctor who's suited for this. So we're all going to climb into this old school bus and go to Georgia. And so on that bus, we hear the names of some of our monsters. So driving the bus is Frederick. He's got that big, like, twisted head with an eyeball, like, up top.
Yep. Kind of sloth-like.
Yeah, kind of like sloth. Wendy is... Who is Wendy?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Okay, Sydney.
I lost track.
I only remember Sydney because he's my
Sydney
favorite.
is your favorite, Casey. Describe Sydney.
Oh, Sydney has these teeth that are really, really, really big, like huge teeth.
Oh, that's Sydney.
That like.
Oh, yeah, they're like they're like diagonal.
Yeah, and they range from like 6 inches to probably a foot on the one side, and they like, oh my gosh, they're so cool.
Yeah, they are quite interesting.
A movie like this, if I actually worked in the effects industry, a movie like this would be a dream for me. Because
it would probably be so fun, yeah.
Well, a big part of my issue is like my perfectionism, but I feel like if I were working on something like this, it would be totally like, I don't know. It feels like I wouldn't feel that way. Yeah. Like I would be able to let go a little bit knowing the circumstances.
Totally.
We have Fernando, who was not in the second one. He's new to Basket Case 3.
Oh, that's right.
Fernando.
And he's got like a head of lettuce. And Granny Ruth is very happy that he brought his head of lettuce, which is so strange.
Is he the one that has the extra thing, right? And
I think he's got nurse? Like something sticking out of his head. That, like,
yeah, I think he's dressed as a nurse. He's trying to help Eve.
Oh, no, that is Simon.
Oh, well, he's new too.
I believe Simon.
Oh,
yeah.
that's Simon.
We've got
you have
Charles.
No idea, Danny.
Charles has the like metal plate in his head.
Yep. Frankenstein
Later he
monster
smashes
he keeps smashing stuff over his head. Elmo, I believe, is the nose one with all the noses. His name is Elmo. You have Mackerel, who's like a little person that looks like a little fish.
Yeah. That's so cute.
You got Cedric, who I can't remember. Cedric. And then you have Eve and Arthur. Arthur, I also don't remember what he looks like.
Yeah, when you Google these, it doesn't give you anything. It just gives you pictures of Belial.
Who is the mouse?
I don't think they say the mouse's name.
There was a mouse?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't understand. He got oozed.
Oh, the guy who's sitting next to Dwayne.
Yeah.
He's got the huge ears and the... Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That was Master Splinter's.
Yeah.
He was experimenting with the ooze. He's like, well, let's try turtles.
And then later, when we get to a little further into the movie and we're in this Georgia mansion, we meet Little Hal, who turns out to be Granny Ruth's son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they mention in part 2, and I didn't even pick up on it.
I did because I watched them all so closely.
Okay.
So like when that was supposed to be a reveal, I was like, I already knew that.
Yeah, when the reporter goes to the police officer in part 2, he says, "Oh, Dr. Ruth, whatever, she had a son with like 11 arms." And he said it died or something. Right. But Little Hal did not die. He is alive and well. He is played by Jim O'Doherty, who is a comedian who produced Third Rock from the Sun.
Okay.
But
I can see that.
So he's like really big, right? He's got all these arms and he's really tall. Jim O'Doherty, the actor, is 6'10".
Well.
So he's pretty big already.
Oh, that's wild.
So I'm looking at the IMDb for Basket Case 2, and they didn't have names for all of them yet.
Oh, okay.
So like there's Toothy,
would be Sydney.
Brainiac, Platehead, Man with 27 Noses, Half Moon.
Oh yeah,
Mouse
the Half
Face.
Moon. Yep.
Guys, this movie really threw me.
I loved them. They were so much fun.
That makes me happy. I'm glad you guys loved it. I have a question for you guys. Does it gross you out? This is so specific.
Okay.
To eat greasy foods when you're watching a movie that is gross?
Danny, we've discussed
Does it-
this.
No.
Have we?
Yeah.
Yeah, Casey ate spaghetti when she was watching some
Slither.
Society or Slither. Yeah, she ate spaghetti while she was watching Slither.
I don't know what it is. I thought that was just like a thing. I can't. I was like, I'm going to get some pizza, drink some beer, have like a night, watch these movies.
Oh, yeah.
The smell of pizza now makes me want to vomit. I'm like,
Oh, I could.
Oh,
it was just like so gross. And it's not even a gross movie, but like my brain wouldn't allow me to be like, this is just a dumb like prosthetic. It was like, no, this is so revolting and you should be sick for eating.
I could eat anything while watching anything.
Oh,
yeah,
So-
that doesn't really bother me either.
Yeah.
oh, really? I couldn't
Yeah.
get through Reanimator. But this is also me being a fucking idiot. Because every time I would sit down to watch Reanimator, I would eat like a fried chicken sandwich that I would get after school. And I would come home and I'd be like, all right, let's put on Reanimator. And I was like, oh God, this is so disgusting. And I couldn't finish watching it. So I'd break up the movie over like the course of several days. But every time I would watch it, I would have the chicken sandwich. So like I couldn't finish
Start eating the sandwich.
Like
Wow.
that. What is that? I don't understand. I don't understand it.
You should talk to your therapist about that, Danny. I don't know.
I agree. I think there's something in my past that could be unlocked.
But what about this musical number on the bus where everyone
Oh
just
my
pulls
God.
out
I just
fucking
wrote down musical
tubas
number,
and
question mark.
trumpets?
Yeah.
There's that song Personality. It's like, it's fitting, I guess. It works really well on the credits. It was a big swing in the beginning of this movie when they're on the bus. But get
No, it's
this.
great.
The filmmakers got the rights to that song for $1 because
Wow.
whoever was supplying the rights found out that it was going to be Annie Ross singing this in the movie. And apparently she was a jazz singer in the 50s and 60s. And so
Oh,
this person was a fan and they're like, yeah, take the song,
That's
basically.
so
Give
that's
us a buck.
amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
Casting is
That's
important.
Yeah.
That's so
Yep.
funny.
So I actually watched this movie with Sam because he came over to watch Cocaine Bear.
Okay.
And then I was like, hey, I have to watch Basket Case 3. I've already watched 1 and 2. You can stay if you'd like. I explained Basket Case 1 and 2 to him to the best of my ability. While we were watching this, he's like, this is like a fucking fever dream. What is going on?
100%.
The part on the bus reminded me of it because I think that was when he said, what the fuck?
So Frank Henenlotter had said that the studio, he wanted it to be much more violent at the end. And so he ramped up the comedy in the beginning, thinking that at the end he was going to go like way over the top, very gory. But they were like, no, we're not going to let you do that. And at one point they even wanted to they wanted him to make it PG-13. And he was like, no.
Weird.
So that's
Yeah, the first
why,
one was brutal.
because like halfway through, I'm thinking like, okay, this is like all comedy. Like there's no horror left in this movie.
That's why I was saying Halloween Town vibes, especially
Yeah.
this one. I literally felt like I was watching it like it could be in that same universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they get to like the police station, the horror kicks in and you're like, oh shit, this is fucking cool. But all that was supposed to be much more brutal, which never made the cut. So then it makes the first half look just too goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they could have just cut so much out of this movie and stretched out the Belial just going on a killing spree part of it. You know, open up where they're already in Georgia. Be like, hey, she's giving birth. You need to help us. Belial sees the stuff, freaks out. The cops find out. Just like kind of compact all that. And then just make the whole movie like part one.
One thing that made me really happy about the third one that I don't know if you guys noticed, but Casey's not a hooker anymore.
I did notice.
She owns a fast food restaurant, y'all. Okay. She made it out of there. And
she's my favorite character.
She's so great. Do you remember Casey
literally
from the
was like,
first one?
if they kill her in the first one, I will be so angry.
She was the hooker in the first movie.
Okay, now she's the manager of...
She owns Casey's. It's called Casey's something.
Oh, yeah.
Casey's,
okay.
Right.
So she made it out of that life. She has turned it around.
Good for her.
I thought that was really funny. I kind of like freaked out, and then I remembered that like I was watching with Sam, who had no idea what I was talking about. It's Casey! It's Casey, the hooker!
He's like, why do you keep saying your
looking at me? I'm like, never mind. Yeah.
Now, in the first one, she was exposed to Belial, right?
Yes, she was.
So she should not be too surprised by all these other people invading the fast foot restaurant.
Well, like we've talked about, a vestigial twin is much different than a man that has 27 noses on his head and a man that has feet, foot-long teeth sticking out of his head, and a guy that's got a half moon for a head. And
but I guess like she really wasn't freaked out by these people. She was just freaked out because she was overwhelmed by the order. Yeah,
because fast food, man, it fucking sucks.
You're going.
I don't want to get too much off on a tangent, but Casey, and I'm going back to the first movie, but Casey has my favorite scene out of this entire franchise is when they're supposed to be drunk.
Oh my God.
And Dwayne is explaining
yes
the whole story.
He and oh my God, the actor that plays Dwayne, bless his heart, but
full frontal nudity, by the way, in the first movie. You see his Bernard.
Yeah, you do.
Please don't start referring to penises as Bernard now.
Bernie. You see his Bernie Sanders.
Oh, it's acting like that.
Just the 1% of the Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, in the first one, it was really funny. There were so many editing mistakes. Like, so many. Did you notice them, Danny?
I mean, not consciously, but I'm sure. I mean, there were quite a few mistakes
there were
in general.
So many. And I'm like, I wonder if this is a choice or, like, so they just not care? I don't know. But
that's the thing. So many of the things in this movie, in all of these movies, is I can't tell. It's literally the exact point that I brought up with Gary Busey, his acting in Silver Bullet, is like, are these things being done deliberately for that effect, for us to talk about it and flag it? Or is it really just a goof?
Yeah.
So you had mentioned the actor who plays Dwayne, Kevin Van Hentenryck.
That's right.
Now, Nina had also made a comment about his performance, of how it's just like, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
But I was kind of thinking, like, for the role that he's playing, like at least in 2 and 3, I can't remember exactly how he is in part 1, but in 2 and 3, like, I think he plays it really well.
Yeah. I mean, I think part 1 was a lot worse.
Okay.
I don't know if he had any other roles.
One, though, he has more of like an arc, if you want to call it that. Because you see him as one version of himself. And then he comments over the fact that, like, Belial's a monster, but maybe I'm a monster too. And then by the end, he's like totally manic.
Yeah, I don't think he's a great actor. I mean, it didn't bother me. It's whatever. It wasn't. I mean, it would be different if this was some sort of like masterpiece of a fucking film that they shoved this guy in.
Yeah, he doesn't stand out any more than anyone else would.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so Kevin Van Hentenryck. Basket Case was his first feature. His first acting bit was in a short, also by Frank Henenlotter, which was also Frank Henenlotter's first short, called "Slash of the Knife." Here's the synopsis. It is a parody of sex hygiene films, extolling the virtues of circumcision and the horrors of being uncircumcised.
The horrors of being uncircumcised? Do you think it'd be the horrors of being circumcised because you've been slashed?
You would think. You would think. Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's the fear of like, oh my God, are they coming for me? Because I'm uncircumcised.
Oh my God.
It's like, I've heard that there are people who will
They're
snip the
coming
tip.
for me.
So then after that, he became Dwayne Bradley in Frank Henenlotter's Basket Case.
That's so funny.
And then in Frank Henenlotter's next feature, Brain Damage. Have you guys seen Brain Damage?
No.
No.
It's fucking another bizarre one. He's in that one as well, and he's credited as Man with Basket.
Oh, okay.
So that's fun.
So he's probably Dwayne,
That's so funny.
right? He's probably Dwayne
Wait.
in that.
yeah.
Are all
yeah.
these movies and shorts available?
Let's see. I mean, Brain Damage is available. I think it might be on Shudder.
Why does Brain Damage sound so
I
familiar?
don't know
I need to see it.
where you would find
Honestly,
Slash of the Night.
I was thinking of Brain Dead, which is the other title for Dead Alive.
right.
Maybe that's what I was thinking too.
So
Right.
that's why it sounded familiar to me.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah, really, at this point, nothing really happens aside from the fact that we are in Georgia and Eve gives birth.
Yeah. So that birthing scene
Yeah.
With
was originally written as 11 pages. And it was much more graphic and lots of
11
blood.
pages.
Yeah. And so the studio didn't want him to shoot it, right? So what they did was just cut to little Hal saying all those things and like counting the babies.
But that was definitely not scripted.
All of that
Stuff
was
that you
improv. All
Yeah.
of it was improv.
Yeah.
Apparently one of the times, because he says things like, put the cat down. I need
Yeah.
a smoke. Your pizza's here. That's a bingo. Make them a hat. He says, I need some celery. But at one point, apparently he says, name one of them Bob. And Frank Henenlotter had said that he just looked over at the DP who was named Bob, and he just came up with that. He said, name one of them Bob.
Yeah.
Because he was just going off and just so crazy.
Oh,
My favorite was, I need some celery.
I need some celery.
I think
Yeah.
that's in AFI's 101 greatest movie quotes of all time. I need
Oh,
some
yeah.
celery.
Yeah.
I need some celery.
Basket
Yeah.
Case 3.
Yeah, that scene was funny when they were taking all the babies out of her. The effects were all fucked up. Like they were coming apart and stuff like that.
That was so funny. Oh my God. And like right when the first one comes out and they cut to little Hal with the video camera and he like screams and then he's like, don't take any offense to that. It was just a natural reaction. I'm sorry.
Yeah, guys, I just don't understand the science and logic in biology, I guess, and anatomy.
Do you need a
And-
behind the scenes on Eve and Eve's getting pregnant?
But like, it's so confused. Like when her water broke, it was like a pool of water.
Well,
Yeah.
when
And
her
then when
water
she gave
broke,
birth, her
they
body
also
just, like, opened
cut
up.
a slit in the prosthetic
Yeah.
and put a hose in it.
There was no like vagina or so weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm not supposed to get it.
Hey.
Maybe that's the joke.
Any hole can be a vagina if you want it to.
Yeah.
I mean,
Amen.
I-
Preach.
So he just happened to put it in the right slit.
well, oh my God. Speaking of that,
God, ooh, so romantic.
speaking of
It's-
Belial putting it in the right spot,
Okay. Okay.
we're wondering where Belial is at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where
He
did
is-
he go?
In his basket, having a sex dream, right?
Oh, that's right.
Where he is surrounded by these two twins with two very well endowed twins.
As in breasts, not dicks. They have giant fucking 80s implant fucking titties, dude.
Yes.
They're crazy.
yes.
I believe
They
they are
are.
referred to as jugs.
Jugs,
And,
yes.
and get this.
That's what the
Get this.
straight men say, right? Jugs.
Those twin actresses,
Yabos.
Carla and Carmen Morel, guess where they were born?
Georgia.
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City.
Zach, you
Where-
need to find them.
No.
To find them.
Track them down.
Oh my gosh, can you make a documentary about it?
They were like talking about like geometry and shit.
I was
In the
so
dream?
lost. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
in the
was
dream, they were
a
talking
little
about
distracted.
trapezoids and
Well, you guys were distracted by the boobs,
Yes.
but I was distracted by the fact that the scene opens up with the music from Swan Lake.
oh yeah.
Like, just for no reason. I was like, why does this sound so familiar? And I was like, oh, this is like a real song.
My
This
question
real music.
is,
Oh my God.
was he dreaming about them because he didn't think that Eve was beautiful?
Well, because he's jealous of Dwayne. At least they established that in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he wants to be with women.
Well, I don't know. I think he loved Eve. He loved
Yeah.
Eve because you will find out in a little bit. Eve, her life is cut short by some police officers with a shotgun, and Belial is torn up about it,
Yeah.
and he's pissed.
But after his wonderful big bosomed dream, he has some PTSD about those doctors that are helping her deliver babies.
Yep.
Oh,
And then he goes crazy.
Belial's out of his fucking mind. They need to, like,
Belial is
Yeah.
out of his fucking basket. Let me tell
He
you.
might be a basket case.
he
Yeah.
is a basket case. But that's also not on him at this point. Like, he is who he is. It is on everyone who's always like, let's just take him out for a second. Like, guys, tie him up. Like, you don't need to, like, cover his eyes. Just, like, keep him restrained.
Don't look him in the eye.
So we get this weird. We have not yet introduced the sheriff's daughter.
Oh, that's right.
What is Opal? Is that her name?
Opal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who seems to be innocent, right? This whole time.
Yeah.
Somehow Dwayne gets locked in a jail cell.
Well, he requests
He turns
that,
himself
and
in.
then he's upset.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't tell if he was
Yeah.
acting like he
I don't
didn't
know.
want to be. He's like,
I
put me
just-
in jail, please. And then they
Yeah.
do, and he's like, you got to get me out of here. I'm like, oh my god, Dwayne, you're killing me right now. Like,
Yeah.
pick a
Make
lane.
up your mind.
But then this Opal character just turns into like this fucking dominatrix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she just is always wearing her leather underneath her nice clothes.
Uh-huh.
She's
And
always
she
ready
has,
for
like-
a bad
She
boy.
put on some fresh tattoos.
And like somehow like a whip, like a bullwhip got planted like in the
Yeah.
the
In,
its
like,
own
the
jail
electrical
cell
thing.
reserve
controls.
spot. Yeah. And she's turned on
So that
by
was
people
a swing.
who are in prison. Is that the thing? So she didn't have
Animals?
She didn't have feelings for Dwayne until she imprisoned him, and by her imprisoning him, made him a prisoner. So then she was into it.
I think so.
But then her dad, who I would say is like one of the real monsters, is like, you see this whole backstory between him and his daughter that is very disturbing, where he's like, he knows that this is her behavior. So, okay, we're not going to kink shame, like be a dominatrix, do all that. That's fine. Unexpected in this movie, but fine. But then he's like, I'm going to give you a spanking. You're not going to get the pony that I promised you. And she's what, 30? Like,
Who?
roughly? Opal? 25
don't-
to 30?
I don't think
Oh.
so.
I thought she was like 18.
Yeah, I
well,
thought. I
even
mean,
so.
maybe the actress was whatever, but I
Yeah.
felt like she was supposed to be like 18, 19 years old.
All right, fair. I feel like my argument still stands for
Yeah.
18, 19.
Oh, it does.
So, weird setup there that didn't really get a payoff. But that's the thing with these movies that throws me, that I struggle with, is like, when everything is weird, nothing is weird,
Yeah,
but it's still weird. So I don't know, like, I'm like trying to cling to someone. I'm like, are you the one who's like my like gateway into this movie? Am I looking at it through your eyes? No. Okay, not you. Okay, moving on. But it's
Yeah.
there's no one.
So Opal, it's called hybristophilia.
What's that?
It's a term for people who are sexually attracted to criminals.
okay.
Yeah.
She and I have
Okay.
something in common.
Meanwhile, while she is doing her thing in the jail cell, these two bumbling idiot cops, I guess they're not bumbling idiots, they're just assholes, are sneaking into the house to find Belial, but they find the babies and Eve instead. They think Eve is Belial and they shoot her and fucking just kill her. What the
They
fuck?
catch her
Which
on
is
fire.
crazy because they go in there for the purpose of $1 million reward.
Yeah.
But they kill the one that they think is the reward. And they're like, well, let's get the babies. But
Let's steal the babies.
the
So
babies aren't part of the reward.
So they are bumbling idiots.
They
Yeah.
are bumbling idiots.
And so that's why like the unique individuals aren't the monsters in this movie.
Yeah.
It's the cops and the quote unquote normal people are the monsters. Because they encroached.
Yeah. The unique people were just minding their business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's man.
It's okay,
But-
Zach. It's just basket case.
But then we get to this great scene in the police station where these
It's like the
cops
scene
are like
that you're waiting for in this kind of movie.
exactly. And they're like poking these babies with pencils and like feeding them donuts and everything. Dude brings in a basket from outside without even looking in it. And then Belial does his business. And the effects in this scene were so fun.
Yeah, they were.
Bananas.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the man gets his head turned all the way around.
Yeah. And I loved that. How like it was clearly like once his head turned around, like it was clearly his head was like bigger.
Yeah.
You could see like the hair
'cause
on
he
the
had
back and
prosthetics
everything.
on.
But it was so fun. And then he chokes that one cop and his eyeballs pop out and like his teeth and gums come out too.
Yeah.
Man, and you get the dude getting his face like chewed off and then his head ripped off on top of that.
That was effective. That was gross.
Yeah. Oh, man. And Opal gets killed with a shotgun on accident.
Oh yeah, that I didn't see coming.
Mm-hmm.
That was just like, we need to like really increase the body count here. So let's just have her get in the crossfire.
And then how sad is it when she gets shot with the shotgun? That's not sad. But then she falls on a baby Belial. And
Oh
squishes
yeah,
him.
just
And the blood shoots out and he gets squashed. That was so sad.
that's funny.
So dark.
I mean, there's still 11 of them.
Yeah, there's enough. Belial's like, woof.
One less mouth
Like,
to
thank
feed.
God. He's like thinking about that
That's
college
right.
tuition. Like, okay,
He's a
that
single
helps.
dad now.
Yeah.
Oh
that's
my
true.
God, you're right.
So
Wow.
Just like his dad, because he
Just
killed
like-
his mom.
just like his dad.
Jeez.
He's supposed to change the pattern.
He
man.
needs a spin-off series. Really explore like Belial. Who is he? What drives him to do what he does?
Who drives Belial?
So Granny Ruth and these other unique individuals have a funeral for this little baby Belial, right? They have not yet decided to go out and live their best life in the open and go to fast food restaurants and everything. That happens in a moment. But at this point, they're having a funeral with all these arrangements and a casket, a little casket and everything. Like, where did they get those things without being seen?
They have
I
Granny
mean,
Ruth.
what is her name? Aunt Ruth? Is it Aunt Ruth? Where does she get anything? She's a school bus.
Granny Ruth.
Granny Ruth. Why Aunt?
Yeah.
Oh, you know why I thought Aunt is because I kept thinking that she was the character from the first one, the woman who looks after Belial and Dwayne in part one.
No. But Granny Ruth, she's a creative lady. She's a busy lady, so I'm sure she's just,
That's true. She has
Resourceful.
her ways. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So we've got our funeral. Annie, Dr. I think I'm confused because in the second one, I think they call her Dr. Ruth. And in this one, they call her Granny Ruth.
We all have the right to be very confused.
It's interchangeable. Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
just confusing. So, then they basically they reveal Hal as having all the arms, which we already knew, right? I don't know
Yeah.
why it was such a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
you know?
I guess one of
also-
the things that I didn't realize was how big he was.
Yeah. It bothered me that he was painted purple, but you know, I mean, they made a lot of choices in this movie and they stuck with them. So
Yeah.
yeah, but then he builds this Gundam for Belial.
Which is so
Which is
fun.
definitely how it was written in the script.
It's so like Aliens.
I know, and that's what I said. I was like, oh my god, is he going to build the same thing that Ripley uses in Alien?
Stay away from her, you Belial.
But I loved that little fight scene. I wish there was more of that fight scene between Mecha Belial and the sheriff.
Yeah.
I wanted more of that. That was great.
I agree.
I got enough. I saw enough.
Shut up.
But I was like so scared that basket of babies was gonna get killed. But instead, the sheriff lands on the basket of babies and they eat him to death.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
That was cool.
They set the sheriff up to be like this cool guy too.
Do they?
Yeah, that was strange.
Yeah.
He seemed very like warm to.
It seemed
people
like
who-
he knew.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
like
seemed
he was
knew
okay
that
with
little
it.
Hal was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Like, why wasn't he the one guy there who's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
I got some dirty cops here. He's like, I'll be a dirty cop too.
I'll be
Like,
dirty.
he just decided to change last minute. He's like, I'm bad.
Yeah.
Well, for a moment, I thought that Opal was going to have some kind of deformity because
Oh.
of the fact that like Hal was the sheriff was so like open to
Understanding. Yeah.
understanding with Hal. Yeah.
That's a great point.
So I thought, okay, Opal is something kind
I
of like
thought
we
that-
saw
yeah.
Susan become in
Yeah.
part 2.
Maybe that was like her revealing it, but then she just reveals herself to be into prisoners.
Yeah.
I feel like that was like a prime moment for something like that, but
Yeah.
alas.
So
Well,
pretty much that's basket case 3. Then they go
That's
on like
basket case 3.
like a fake talk show, which is supposed to be like
Oh, yeah.
Geraldo.
oh yeah. What was it called?
Like, eat-
I don't remember.
Well, see,
Ronaldo?
that's where they sort of
Yes,
established
Ronaldo.
themselves as monsters,
Yeah.
Well,
which is a weird turn to like cap everything off with. It's like, no,
but I
we
don't.
are
I don't
coming for
think.
you.
No, I think it was more they were standing up for themselves because they were like showcasing these people on the talk show because they had deformities, and they were like, "Fuck you guys, we're
Yeah,
just
but then,
normal
like-
Yeah,
people."
that's fair.
But they like come out and they like eat the talk show host. Belial like
Yeah,
attacks
listen,
them.
Geraldo
and then,
was terrible. Geraldo should have been eaten by monsters.
sure, right. But then they like come out and if I'm not mistaken, they say like, this is our world now. Like you guys
Yeah.
are the outsiders.
Oh, it's
And so
like-
that's
like
kind of
mutants.
menacing in itself. Like I see what Danny's saying. Like that's kind of presenting themselves up as like, you
they're not.
guys better watch
they're not
out.
defending themselves. They're just sort
Right.
of-
Now they're actively on the attack.
Yeah,
And I could see if, and maybe you could argue, maybe this was sort of established, but I don't know if it was done enough because they spent so much time hidden that maybe if it was more a story of them like constantly being pushed, you know, like
right.
that movie like in Freaks where like
Mm-hmm.
the human characters see them as the monsters, but like we're literally not doing anything to you, and then by the end they're like, well, fuck you, we're gonna fucking kill you now. Like you want,
Right.
you know, you want us to be monsters? Well, here, we're monsters. You've pushed us
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
to that limit, to the edge. But
They
this year,
still
I didn't really
experienced
get
some
that.
of that.
Yeah. I
They
didn't get that
experienced
though
some
with
of
these
that
guys.
with the police officers and stuff. I mean, anybody that they've seen in the real world, why was their bus blacked out? Why could nobody
I
see inside the bus?
guess.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I think that definitely was sort of implied, but I guess the fact that it wasn't prominent as like a story element, you know, to
Yeah.
sort of like lead up to that moment. It
Yeah.
was just like, oh, I get why they did that, as opposed to like, oh, that's the specific reason they did that. It was like cause and effect.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
It just felt tacked on. It felt it derailed me a bit.
Yeah. So here are the reveals that I have for this movie. And tell me if you agree, disagree, have others, whatever. I've got the ending of Basket Case 2. It's basically a reveal. Baby Hal in the painting. Little Hal when he's grown up on the roof that the sheriff sees. Mm-hmm. Hal meets Ruth. Ruth meets Hal. Belial during the birthing scene, because they come in. That's the first time we see him in this movie, is they take him out of the basket and he can see the babies being born. Little Hal, which is now Big Hal, when they open the doors, show the sheriff, and he's got all the arms and he's just like waving. Belial jumping out of the basket at the cops in the police station. Mecha Belial to the two cops in their houses.
There should not be this many introductions
and then
to
also
monsters, but there are.
Mecha Belial to the sheriff at the end.
Yeah.
Favorites. Mine is my favorite is Mecha Belial to the sheriff at the end when he is revealed in his big suit.
Mine is
Gundam.
the same.
I'm gonna go for a little twist. I would do Big Hal, Little Hal to Big Hal when we see him as like he looks like a character that you would have seen in like Society or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of Society-ish. I mean, when they were fucking at the beginning, it looked very Society.
Yeah, I had to laugh because Casey, you said that you watched the first 5 minutes of Basket Case 3 and you had no idea what was going on, and you were like, "Guys, I highly suggest you watch 1 and 2 before going into 3." And I said, I think I'm just going to jump right into 3 and see if I understand, and then we'll compare. And you were like, I swear to you, you will have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I watched Basket Case 2 and I'm like blown away by this sex scene at the end. I am like cracking up. Basket Case 3 starts and it opens with that sex scene. And I was like, I can't imagine the experience that Casey had just starting this movie.
Yeah.
And just not having seen the first 2 and just that's the opening scene.
So it was actually really funny when I started watching the third one without watching the other 2. I just like randomly turned it on and Matt was eating. And he goes, I'm trying to eat. Why do you always do this to me? And I was like, I didn't know that's what I was going to start with.
Why do you always do this to me?
Yeah. Whoops.
That's funny. Okay, well, now it is time for a segment that we like to call The Real Monster.
Run, run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here. You are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world. Now tell me, where are the others?
Eat me.
I'll go first. I've got 2. The first one is the slit that was cut into Eve with a hose placed through it when her water broke.
Dude, my real monster is that word.
What? Slit?
Yeah.
Slit. I'm gonna slit you. So because it felt so much like it was very much like, shit, guys, you know what? we need it for water to break. You know what I mean? They're literally just cut a slit in her gut. So that's my first one. My second one is the boom operator that you can clearly see in the bus.
Not even like a little. It looks like a close-up.
The reflection. Yeah, and it's like he's wearing a white shirt that says USA on it. Like you can see what he's wearing.
Oh my gosh.
He's probably credited in the credits as like boom operator near bus.
Probably.
Danny, what do you got?
The real monster I have is Calabar, the mayor who you find out is actually the evil. Oh, wait, I forgot. This isn't a Halloween Town movie. I'm thinking of Halloween Town.
God.
He was the real monster at the end of Halloween
Town.
Dude,
Basket Case 3 came first, Danny.
Well, not in my timeline.
Can't believe you.
No, the real monster, to bring it back to these podcast roots, is greed and capitalism. The cops just want that sweet, sweet green.
Yeah.
That's
Which
right.
I guess is
Sweet,
maybe it's a
sweet
nickname for
green.
money. I don't know. I feel like that's also weed. They want that $1 million. Also, who's putting that? What do they call it out? Oh my God.
Nobody. There is no
the
$1
word
million
I'm looking for? There isn't?
because that reward was
Reward. Thank you.
from
Reward.
part 2 from the newspaper or magazine or whatever that the reporter was working for in part 2. And she said, if I find him, do I get the $1 million? And her boss says, what $1 million?
Thank you.
So
As
there is
invested
no
as I
$1 million.
was in this entire trilogy, I missed that detail. So yeah, greed, Calabar and greed.
So, okay. My real monsters
Yeah.
are, number 1, corrupt cops. Because, like you said, Danny, fuck those guys.
Greedy
Fuck
little
those
fuckers.
In Basket Case 3 and in our current state. Also, straitjackets.
Yeah.
I have, luckily, never been in a straitjacket, but I am very claustrophobic. And anytime I see someone in a straitjacket in a movie, I have to stretch my arms out.
Yeah.
Like if I wasn't crazy when they put me in the straitjacket,
Oh, yeah.
that would make me go crazy.
I mean, that's anything in a fucking mental institution or prison. Like, do you think solitary confinement is not going to make somebody fucking worse? Come on now.
Right?
Exactly.
Sorry.
Man.
So stupid.
So, yes, got to stretch those limbs out,
I'm with
people.
you.
Got to stretch
I
those
feel
limbs.
like it would be comforting to me.
Ooh.
I get nervous if I'm even like, if I'm taking like my shirt off and like my arms are stuck.
Yes.
Like, I'm gonna die.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I just pictured you screaming, taking your shirt off. Oh, okay. Every
Just in,
time
like,
you
the
take
2
your shirt off, you
seconds it takes to
scream
take
until
my
it's off.
shirt off.
Oh my
sorry.
God. That's so funny.
Okay.
So yeah, that's it. That's all I have for Basket Case 3. What about you guys? Do you have anything else to add
That's it. I
about
mean,
Belial and the
Danny
gang?
didn't love it. I don't know if you loved it, Zach. I loved it. I loved all 3 of them.
Yeah, I remember it's been a while since I've seen part 1, and I remember kind of being a little bored. But maybe I need to rewatch it. But I thoroughly enjoyed part 2, and I did enjoy, for the most part, I enjoyed part 3.
Yeah, they're just fun. I mean, you know, if you watch them after listening to this, don't have like crazy expectations. They're just fun.
No.
Just have fun
I'm gonna
with it.
set you up
Yeah.
for success. Don't have expectations. In general. No, I enjoyed the
expectations.
first one. I feel like it just like tickled my funny bone. I liked how grimy and cheap it felt.
Yeah.
And I think that's what worked for me.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was fun to make, and it was so over the top, but it was like that griminess, that sort of, I was like, yeah, you have permission to be stupid. My problem with 2 and 3, and I do not want to say anything too negative, not because of the filmmakers, because I feel like this is the one franchise where the filmmakers don't care if you kind of have negative things to say. But I
I'm
don't
gonna
want
say probably not.
Right.
I don't want to take away the fun that you guys had with it. So I'm just going to say,
Oh, Danny, I don't
I
care.
preferred the vibe of the first one. Okay, well, in that
Okay.
case,
Yeah.
I truly despise 2 and 3. If I never
Are
have
you
to look at them
serious?
again, I will be so happy. They made
Wait,
me
is that-
so uncomfortable. I don't know what it is about these movies that made me feel like genuinely ill.
You've been holding this in for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Danny.
I'm wondering if, because there was such a specific style to 2 and 3.
Yeah, but what made you ill about it? Like, they weren't any more disgusting than the first one.
There were movies, or maybe it was just one movie that I watched when I was a kid. As much as I loved horror movies as a kid, I was also really disturbed by them. So it was just a dumb choice of mine to watch them. But the part 2 and 3, something about that very early 90s dollhouse style and like pastels that it had, sort of like Chucky 2 or Child's Play 2. There was this distinct style. Oh my God, Danny, that's era.
So funny that you say that.
Why?
Is it Child's Play 2 or 3 where the opening comes out of Chucky's eyeball as they're doing the credits?
I think it's 2, because 3 is the one where he's like it's like melting in reverse, kind of.
Right. So it's part
and
2.
1 is when they're rebuilding him.
Yeah, and they I think they come out of his eyeball during the credits sequence. That's how Basket Case 2 starts in their credits sequence. It's going out of
that's interesting.
The eyeball. And then in part 3, they use the same credit sequence, but in reverse, and they go into the eyeball.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to make that connection. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I'm glad you did, because
continue.
I don't need to spend too much time talking about this, but there's just this aesthetic thing that it must be like a leftover fear that I have from when I was a kid. Because there were other movies. It wasn't just Child's Play 2. There were other movies, or maybe just one other movie, that had that style where it was like it was supposed to feel clean cut, but it was just hiding the grossness underneath. And I think it scarred me. Oh, no, it's fine.
But you look terrified right now.
Oh, it like
genuinely you look very uncomfortable.
These movies clearly didn't scare me, but they just put this like bad taste in my mouth. And I just didn't care for them. So,
dude, I didn't know if you were joking or not when you said, okay, I'll tell you the truth. I despised 2 and 3. I was like, wait, he's clearly joking. Bit. But you did. You despised
I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh. So that is it for Basket Case 3. Danny despised it. Me and Casey had a good time. Let us know what you thought about Basket Case 3, whether you watched it recently or you've seen it in the past. Tell us your thoughts. Find us on Twitter at I Met Your Monster, or on Facebook and Instagram at How I Met Your Monster. And where can our listeners find you guys on social media?
I am on Instagram at WolfMotherCasey.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Danny Salem. Just my name. Danny, spelled the normal way. Salem, Salemme. That's 2 M's, like the candy, M&M, melt in your butt, not in your hands.
Very
wonderful.
Good,
very good. Thank you.
And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Zach Winsick. Okay, so Basket Case 3, the first in our series of Goofball sequels. Mm-hmm. What's next?
Whoa, next we're doing...
That's a great question.
We're doing a little movie called Army of Darkness.
Oh, shit. Wait, we're going to battle?
We're going
to go back in
ready
time.
For this.
We're going back in time with Ash.
My God.
Yes.
And we're going to fight
Uncle
some
Sam
Deadites.
wants you, Ash.
I haven't even seen it in so long. Are there Deadites in it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
there are
Deadites in medieval times.
Yes.
Yep.
And the great thing, now where Basket Case 3 does start off with the end of Basket Case 2, it doesn't really tell you anything. It just sort of bridges the gap to remind you. Whereas Army of Darkness, which is the first movie I ever watched in the Evil Dead franchise, is very easy to understand. You can, I recommend watching all the Evil Dead movies, but you can go into Army of Darkness having not seen any of them, and it makes sense. You get it.
Yeah.
They give you all the information you could possibly need, and you are all geared up for a rollicking goofball time.
All geared
of a
up.
sequel.
All geared up. And
you know
just
who else
in
is geared
time
up?
for
Ash in that movie.
Yeah, he is. Just in time for Evil Dead Rise, which will be in the theaters around the same time that our Army of Darkness episode is released.
Well, that's convenient.
Yeah.
Did we plan that?
I don't know, maybe. So, yes, make sure you join us for Army of Darkness, because so fun. Just a good, fun time at the movies.
And this is Casey's choice. So
Yes.
Zach, Basket
right.
Case 3 was your choice. This is Casey's
Yes.
pick.
And I
It is a great
am glad I picked Basket Case 3.
You should be. I'm glad I watched it,
yeah.
even though it
I
wasn't
know
my favorite
I'm
franchise.
glad.
I'm glad I watched it.
So make sure to join us for Army of Darkness. And until then, thank you all for listening. Now go meet some monsters.